Everyone thinks they understand Jeff Bezos' wealth. They picture the Amazon logo, the warehouses, the stock price. They're wrong. Bezos has been quietly, systematically, and legally engineering a wealth structure so sophisticated that Amazon itself is almost beside the point. Think about this. Estimates suggest he has sold or transferred well over $30 billion in Amazon stock since 2002, with approximately $20 billion combined in 2020 and 2021, and an additional 13.5 plus billion in 2024. Not because he's leaving, not because he's panicking, because the smartest billionaires on earth don't share their wealth. They architect it. Today we're pulling apart the blueprint, the Jeff Bezos Wealth Architecture. Let's start with a fundamental problem that every ultra-wealthy founder faces. Imagine you built a company worth $200 billion. On paper, you're the richest person in the world. But here's the catch. You can't actually spin stock. You can't wire one Amazon share to pay for a rocket program. You can't hand a deed to your net worth when you want to buy 300,000 acres of land. Stock is paper wealth. Liquidity is real wealth. So how does a founder billionaire convert paper wealth into deployable capital without taking the stock or triggering massive tax events? The answer is a legal mechanism called a 10b5-1 plan. Here's how it works. Bezos and other executives file a pre-scheduled stock sale plan with the SEC. The trades happen on autopilot at preset intervals, regardless of the market conditions or insider knowledge. This achieves two things simultaneously. First, it provides predictable, structured liquidity. Second, and critically, it insulates the seller from accusations of insider trading because the trades were pre-planned. Bezos sold approximately $1 billion per year in earlier years to fund Blue Origin. But in 2024 alone, he sold over $13.5 billion in Amazon stock, his largest divestment in years. The machine runs on its own. Amazon keeps growing. Bezos keeps diversifying. And every dollar that leaves Amazon gets redeployed into an asset class with its own return profile. This is where the architecture gets interesting. Let's talk about Blue Origin. Most people look at Blue Origin and think vanity project, billionaire ego trip, and I get why a guy worth $150 billion playing with rockets doesn't scream financial strategy. But watch more carefully. Blue Origin is a privately held aerospace company, and private is the operative word. Bezos doesn't need to disclose its valuation quarterly. It doesn't face the volatility of public markets. It's a long duration, high conviction asset with almost incalculable upside ceiling. Consider what Blue Origin is actually building toward: government contracts, space tourism, satellite internet infrastructure through Project Kuiper, and, according to company statements, permanent human presence in space. In May 2023, NASA awarded Blue Origin a $3.4 billion contract to develop the Blue Moon crewed lunar lander for the Artemis 5 mission. The Department of Defense is a client. The total addressable market for commercial space, according to various industry estimates, is projected in the trillions over the next few decades. This isn't a hobby. This is a private equity position in the most capital-intensive, highest barrier to entry industry in human history. And critically, by funding it through systematic Amazon stock sales rather than debt or outside investors, Bezos retains 100% ownership. There is no VC dilution. There are no impatient public shareholders demanding profitability. Blue Origin is Bezos' largest, most illiquid, and potentially most valuable long-term asset, built patiently, privately, and funded by a machine he set in motion decades ago. Now, let's open the other compartments of this architecture. Beyond Blue Origin, Bezos deploys capital through a family office and venture arm known as Bezos Expeditions. And if you examine the portfolio even loosely, a very clear pattern emerges. He invested in Google before it went public. He was an early backer of Airbnb and Uber, both of which became iconic consumer platforms with global scale. These were not random bets. They were high-conviction positions in network businesses with winner-take-most economics. The Washington Post, purchased in 2013 for a reported $250 million, is perhaps the most strategically interesting acquisition on this list. At surface level, newspapers don't look like a great investment, but the Post isn't just a newspaper. It's a media institution with one of the most sophisticated digital subscription models in the industry. It's also an influence asset, the kind of platform that shapes policy conversation, protects reputations, and grants access to corridors of power that money alone can't buy. For someone operating at the intersection of tech, government contracts, and global public opinion, owning a major American media institution is not a financial play. It's a strategic one. Then there's real estate. And here, the scale is staggering. Estimates suggest Bezos controls approximately 420,000 to 462,000 acres, primarily in West Texas, making him one of the largest private landowners in the United States. This includes massive ranches in Texas, where he also built Blue Origin's primary launch facility. Why does a man with this level of financial sophistication park billions in raw land? 3 reasons: inflation hedge, irreplaceable scarcity, and optionality. Land doesn't go to zero. It doesn't get disrupted by software, and if you own enough of it in the right place, it generates leverage of a very different kind. Across real estate, media, and venture, the pattern is the same. Bezos is assembling asset classes that are uncorrelated to American stock. If Amazon collapses tomorrow, and it won't, but if the land doesn't disappear, the Post doesn't go dark, the Blue Origin contracts don't evaporate, this is called de-risking, and it is the core discipline of generational wealth. We need to talk about taxes, not the political debate around them, the mechanics. Because the third pillar of this architecture, and the one most people never learn in school, is the legal structure through which ultra-wealthy individuals minimize their tax exposure across generations. And the most elegant legal strategy in this space has a name: buy, borrow, die. Let me walk you through it precisely. Step 1, buy. You acquire appreciating assets, in this case, Amazon stock, real estate, private company stakes. These assets grow in value every year. But here is the foundational insight of American tax law. You do not owe capital gains tax on appreciation until you sell the asset. If you bought Amazon shares in 2002 at $10 and they're now worth $200, you have made $190 per share. But you haven't paid $1 of tax on that gain. Not yet. That's called an unrealized capital gain, and it is the foundation on which the entire strategy is built. Step 2, borrow. Here's the genius move. You need cash? You don't sell the stock, you borrow against it. You walk into a private bank, and at this level, these are not normal banks, and you use your Amazon shares as collateral for a low-interest loan. The bank gives you hundreds of millions of dollars. You spend that cash on whatever you want. And the critical point, loan proceeds are not income. They are not taxable. You have just turned $500 million in stock appreciation into $500 million of spendable cash without triggering a single dollar of capital gains tax. Step 3, die. This is where American tax law contains one of the most significant provisions for the ultra-wealthy: the step up in basis at death. Here's what that means in practice. When an asset is inherited, its cost basis, the original purchase price for tax purposes, reset to its current market value at the time of inheritance. So if Bezos bought Amazon shares at $10, holds them his entire life and passes them to his heirs when they're worth $200, the heir's tax basis is $200. The $190 per share of gain that accumulated over decades, it disappears, tax-free, legally, forever. And then there is the role of charitable structures, specifically the Bezos Earth Fund and the Day One Fund. Now, these are real philanthropic initiatives. Bezos has committed $10 billion to climate work and billions more to early childhood education. I'm not questioning the sincerity of those commitments, but it is also true, and it is publicly documented, that charitable foundations provide significant tax advantages. Contributions to qualifying foundations can reduce taxable income. Assets held within foundations can appreciate tax-free, and foundations can be structured to provide family influence and mission control across multiple generations. At this scale, philanthropy and tax efficiency are not mutually exclusive. They are frequently the same decision. So let's pull all this together. The Jeff Bezos Wealth Architecture is not a single strategy. It is a system of systems, and every component serves a distinct purpose within the whole. Amazon, the engine, the origin wealth creation machine, but not a place to store the wealth forever. The 10b5-1 plan, the transmission, it converts paper wealth into deployable capital systematically and predictably without insider trading risk. Blue Origin, the long bet asset, maximum upside ceiling, private structure, 100% ownership, multi-decade time horizon, real estate, media, and venture, the diversification layer, uncorrelated assets that hedge against Amazon risk and provide inflation protection, cash flow, and optionality. And threading through all of it, the tax architecture, buy, borrow, die, the step up in basis, the charitable vehicles. These don't just reduce the tax bill, they determine which assets survive into the next generation and in what form. The goal of the system is not to maximize next quarter's returns. The goal is something far more ambitious. Immunity to single company risk, preservation of influence across generations, the ability to fund multi-decade missions in space, in media, in climate without answering to any shareholder, board, or market cycle. This is not wealth, this is the wealth operating system. Here is what I want you to take from this. You may not have a 10b5-1 plan. You may not own 400,000 acres of Texas, but the principles at work here: de-risk your largest concentration, diversify across uncorrelated assets, use legal structures to preserve what you build, think in generations, not quarters. These are not exotic billionaire secrets. They are the operating logic of every truly enduring future, scaled to whatever level you're working from. The difference between earning money and engineering wealth is architecture, and now you can see the blueprint. If you are obsessed with building a legacy and taking control of your capital today, hit subscribe. We are going to war against the traditional system.